In this video, we are going to discuss the OpenAI TTS model, and TTS stands for text to speech, and we will also go through different ways of interacting with audio using the TTS model. And then at the end, I'll give you guys a demo of how we can turn a text into a spoken audio. First, let's see what is text to speech model. So text to speech model actually provides a speech endpoint based on the TTS model, and it has support for 6 built-in voices with different pitch and frequency. The TTS model can narrate a written blog post, so it's not just you can convert your paragraph or two into the audio, you can even narrate a whole blog post into a speech. The TTS model produces spoken audio in multiple languages, so it does not support only English. It also supports a bunch of languages which we will discuss later, and through TTS you can do like real-time audio streaming as well. So that was a quick introduction of the TTS model. Now let's jump into the demo. So first I'll create a Python project to use the OpenAI text to speech model. Then I'll switch to that directory. Now I'll create a Python virtual environment to install all our packages. Next I'll activate this virtual environment. Now I will install all the required packages including OpenAI, Notebook and python.env. Packages are installed, so now I'll create a .env file. I'll open that .env file and I'll paste my OpenAI API key into this .env file. I'll close this file and now I'll start my Jupyter notebook. Now the Jupyter notebook is loaded. Now I'll add the actual notebook to start writing our text to speech script. I'll go to File, New and Notebook. I'll call that notebook OpenAI TTS. So in the notebook, first I'll add a 2 lines code just to disable unnecessary warnings from the OpenAI. I'm importing warnings and then I'm disabling the warnings here. Warnings.filter warnings, ignore. Next I am loading the load.env function, which will load all the environment variables from the .env file. Now let's run the actual function. So the environment variables are loaded and now we can start importing OpenAI. So here I'm importing the OS package. I'm also importing the IPython package. So using the OS package, we will try to get the file path, and using the IPython, we will try to play the actual audio, which we will generate from the text using the OpenAI text to speech model. To start using OpenAI API, I'll instantiate the OpenAI client, and now using this client I can start sending the request. So here I have a basic snippet for the OpenAI text to speech model. Here I'm setting the model to TTS1. In case of chat completion, we were setting this to GPT 3.5 or 4.0. In case of image creation, we are setting this model to dall-e. For the text to speech conversion, we are setting this model to TTS1, and then next I'm setting the voice to Alloy. So you can consider the Alloy as a person. So the way different persons have different voices, the same way OpenAI has a set of different voices, which we will discuss next, and we will try to generate text to speech with different voices. And then at the end I am giving the actual input, which will be converted to the speech. So I am giving this prompt that OpenAI is great for turning text into speech. Now let's execute this. So this has executed successfully. Now let's try to convert this response to actual audio file, and then we will try to play it to see how the OpenAI has converted this text into speech. To generate the actual speech file in our local file system, first we need an actual file path for the speech. So I'll first create that file path. I'm calling it speech file path, and then I'm using os.path.absolute path speech.mp3. So when we extract the audio from this response into a file, this is the file where we will be saving our final response audio. And now I'll write my final script to actually convert this response into the actual file and save it into speech.mp3. So here I have the same response which I have got from the OpenAI model, and then I'm streaming this response to a file, and then I'm giving the file path which I have generated here. So here I'm sending the request to OpenAI, and the OpenAI is giving me the audio file in the response which can be streamed. To stream that response into a file, I'm creating a file here first in my local file system, and then I'm passing that file path to the stream to file function to generate the final audio. So now let's execute this. So it has run successfully, and now let's see if we can play this file as an audio. So for that, what I'll do is that I'll again use the IPython, and if you guys remember, we have previously used IPython for images display when we were working with images using dall-e model, and here we are using IPython again, ipython.display.audio, and this is the same file we created here, speech.mp3. and now let's execute this. So here you guys can see this audio player is generated here by IPython, and if I play this file, this should play exactly this text which we have given to the OpenAI model. So I'll play this and let's see how this goes.
OpenAI is great for turning text into speech.
And I think this looks great. So this was the very basic version of how OpenAI TTS model convert text into speeches. As I mentioned that you can try different voices when you are converting your text into speech. So now let's try some other voices and see how they are different from each other. So I'll call it voice options. So the first voice we are going to try is echo voice. So what I'll do is that I'll copy exactly this same request, I'll paste it here, and instead of alloy I'll try echo, and I'll keep the text as it is, and now let's see how it converts this text into speech in a different voice. So I'll execute this request. The request has executed, and I'll create a file path. I'll call it echo.mp3. then I'll stream this response into the file we have created here with the name echo.mp3. then I'll play that audio with the IPython audio player. So I'll execute this, and then I'll execute the final echo.mp3 file. So now let's play it and see how it goes.
OpenAI is great for turning text into speech.
And you guys can notice the difference between the echo.mp3 and the one we created before, alloy.mp3. So let me play the previous one as well, and then we can easily differentiate both voices. So the previous one was speech.mp3 and this one is echo.mp3. So I'll play it here as well, and now let's play speech.mp3.
OpenAI is great for turning text into speech.
And now let's play the echo.mp3.
OpenAI is great for turning text into speech.
So you guys can see the difference between two different voices. Now let's try one other voice. The next voice I'm going to try is Nova, and the rest of the stuff should look same as we done previously. So I'll try that same script here with the TTS1 model, and instead of echo I'll try the Nova voice type, and then I'll execute this request. So the request has executed, and now again following that same way I'll create a file path. This time I'll call it Nova, and then I'll stream this OpenAI response to the file we have created here. I'll execute this, and then I'll play the final generated voice. So let's play it.
OpenAI is great for turning text into speech.
And you can see this voice is different than the previous ones. So these were the very basic things with the OpenAI text to speech, where we practice how we can convert a text into speech and how we can try different voices. Now let's try some other stuff and see how we can increase or decrease the audio speed generated by the OpenAI model. So I'll call it audio speed, and then I'll copy and paste exactly that same script. I'm setting the model to TTS1. The voice is Nova, which we just recently played with. I'm passing that same text. To increase or decrease the speed of the speech, text to speech model has a parameter called speed, and let's set it to 2. And you can set the speed of a speech from 0.25, which will be the decreased version, and you can set it up to 4x. So if you want to decrease the speed, you will keep it below 1, either 0.90, 0.7, up to, you can decrease it up to 0.25, and if you want to increase it, you can set it to above the 1. So it could be 1.25, 1.5, and you can set it up to 4. So now let's try with the speed 2 and see how it affects the speed. So the request is executed. Now I'll create the output file. I'll call it speed.mp3. Then I'll stream the generated audio into this file, and then I'll play the final audio with the IPython. So first you can notice that the previously generated audios were 0 to 2 seconds, and this one where we have increased the speed to 2, the audio length automatically decreased to 0.1, and now let's play it.
OpenAI is great for turning text into speech.
So you can see the difference, how quickly it narrates the text into speech. So the demos we went through here were all about English language. Next we are going to try how the OpenAI model behaves with some non-English languages. So here I'll try some Spanish text and see how the OpenAI TTS model convert the Spanish text into a speech. So here I have my script for converting the text into speech. Everything is same. The only thing is I am changing this input from English into Spanish, and now let's execute it. Then I'll create my file. I'll stream the response into that file, and finally I'll play that file which I have just created in the Spanish. And now let's play it.
OpenAI es excelente para convertir texto en voz.
So this was about the different languages support. So you can convert your text in English from text to speech. You can do it in the Spanish. You can do it in so many other languages. You can see on the screen all these languages are supported when you are converting your text into speech. Now let's see how many audio format the TTS model supports and see if we can generate the audio in any other format than the .mp3. So the TTS model supports all of these output formats for the audio. The first one is OPUS, and which is recommended for internet streaming and communication, and it has a low latency. The other format the TTS support is the AAC, which is recommended for digital audio compression and preferred by YouTube, Android, iOS. Other format is FLAC, which is a lossless audio compression. Next is the WAV format, which is an uncompressed WAV audio, and that is suitable for low latency application. So these are the few supported audio formats by the TTS model. And now let's try some demo to see if we can convert a text into speech other than the MP3 format. So I'll call it supported output formats, and I'll copy and paste exactly that same script. The only change I'm going to make is I'm adding the response format here, which by default is MP3, but now I'm setting it to AAC. And now let's run this. Next I'll create the file for the generated audio, which will be output.aac instead of mp3. Then I'll stream the response to that file, and then I'll play that file with that same name.
OpenAI is great for turning text into speech.
And here you can see we have generated the audio in a different format. That was all about the practical demos, how we can convert text into speeches in different output formats, in different languages, and also with different voices. Now let's quickly go through a few more things related to the text to speech. And the first thing is, how can I control the emotional range of the generated audio? Like if you guys have noticed, I have given a text and there was no emotions behind that voice. So I can have one text, and that text, when it's converted to the audio, that audio can be speak in different emotion, whether it's crying or whether it's laughing or whether the tone is down or the tone is up. You cannot control that with the OpenAI text to speech model. The other thing is, can I create a custom copy of my voice? That is not possible. So as we saw in the demos, there are 6 different voices support in the text to speech model, and you can convert your text into speeches only in those supported voices. So you cannot create a custom copy of your own voice. And the last thing is, do I own the outputted audio files? And yes, you do. All the output files you have generated through the text to speech model, you own it. But if you want to show it somewhere to the customer, to the end user, OpenAI recommends that you need to add a disclaimer that this file or this audio is generated by the AI. So that was all about converting a plain text in different languages, in different voices into speech. And in the next video, we are going the inverse. We will give a speech to the OpenAI model, and then we will see how the OpenAI convert that speech into text. And for that, OpenAI has a model called Whisper model, and the Whisper model does speech to text, which is also known as transcriptions. And the other thing that model does it, that it also do translation. So in the next video, we will go through all these things, including Whisper model, transcription, and also translation.